Today, we're going to cover what it takes to become a Little Caesars franchisee. There's two things you can do. You can either buy an existing franchise business or you can build a new one. First, we will cover the costs to build one of these new locations. According to the franchise disclosure document, it costs anywhere from $354,000 to $1.4 million to build a new Little Caesars location. I will break those costs down into three components. There are startup costs, build costs, and opening costs. The first startup cost you have is the franchise fee. This is the fee that many people talk about when getting started with a franchise. Other things are training at the headquarters, insurance, and other licenses and permits. Next, we'll cover build costs. First, as a part of that, we have leasehold improvements. You'll see a big range here. This could be that you're building out an existing location and turning it into a Little Caesars, or you're building a completely new building. That's what drives the variance along with the size of the building. And then next up, you have furniture, fixture, and equipment. So you have to buy a pizza oven, something to hold the pizzas in to make them warm while customers are on their way. And last up, we have opening costs. So these are things that you're going to incur right before you open a store. So prepaid rent, advertising, telling people that you're going to be open soon, other startup costs like inventory. So you have to have inventory on hand before you actually sell it through, and utility expenses. So just the things that it takes right before you open a location. Next, I'll cover the process for buying a Little Caesars and really buying any franchise restaurant. We'll start with store level EBITDA. That is the cash flow that's generated inside the four walls of the business. Next, we will subtract above store costs. So many times in larger franchise businesses, you have a district manager or somebody that oversees operations. You also have things like accounting and payroll costs. So we'll subtract those out from store level profits, and that will give us a corporate level EBITDA. So this is the EBITDA, or the cash flow, that buyers will look at to evaluate how much to pay for a business. Next, we'll take that corporate EBITDA and we'll multiply it by a valuation multiple. Typically for a 4 or 5 unit Little Caesars business, that's traded in the 4 to 5 times EBITDA range. Smaller businesses will trade at lower multiples. Bigger businesses may trade at a slightly higher multiple. And Little Caesars, it would be surprising to see anything get above 5.5 or 6 times EBITDA. That will give you your final business valuation. So what you would expect to either buy or sell a Little Caesars business. Next, we're going to take a look at the Little Caesars average revenue. We have average revenue at Little Caesars of $920,000. Food and paper costs at around 37% of sales. This is higher for Little Caesars than other pizza guys, just because they sell the $5 low-cost pizzas. Labor costs of 25%. Royalties, 6% of sales. So this fee that you pay back to the franchisor, to Little Caesars. Advertising expense of 4.4%. Pizza guys do typically have higher advertising spend than other franchise businesses. Rent at 4.5% gets you to store level EBITDA of 9%, or $82,800 per location. Next, we'll take those stats and figure out what it would take to buy a 5-unit business. First, we'll start with store level EBITDA of $82,800. We'll multiply that by a 5-unit business. That'll give us store level EBITDA of $474,000. We'll subtract out G&A at 3%. 3 to 4% is typical for franchise businesses, or $138,000 subtracted out. Next, that will give us corporate EBITDA of $276,000. We'll multiply that by a 4.5 multiple, and that will give us a business valuation of $1.242 million. The value that you would expect to either buy or sell this Little Caesar franchise business. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below if you have any other questions or any ways that I can be helpful.